Hey guys, it's Will. So some stocks move quietly until they don't. APLD jumped 12% after hours on Friday, and we're just arriving here in Argentina, just still unpacking through the weekend. And we're still going to be live tomorrow morning. If you want to join us at Market Open and get access, lifetime access, to see my entries and my exits and get a free t-shirt as a bonus, that government shutdown sale is still available in the second link in the description below. So APLD has really seen a surge up to $40 a share, and we were watching it and tracking it very closely over the last few months as we have some entries down around $7 a share, $15 a share, and $3 a share. And we have a position currently that's up about 120%. If you're watching right now, what you need to know is that the data center market is powering AI, and the fastest growing markets that we're in right now are AI, robotics, technology, quantum computing, military and defense, and definitely data centers. So APLD has seen a surge and has been rocketing up to new highs as a result of the data center boom. Now, they've recently pulled back from that $40 price point, but they didn't pull back as much as most stocks did on Friday after the more tariffs and things like that happening in China. They actually ended up doubling down on the growth because they reported earnings on Thursday and surged from about 27 bucks and ended the week at around $32 a share. So recently pulling back down, they're going to use this previous resistance level here as a support most likely. We already saw them bounce around $30 a share up to about $32.50. So as we start to see, RSI and MACD after this recent pullback getting back into that buy territory, we're going to see how the markets react here on Monday. If we get to see some nice growth and the markets have a positive outlook, then things could look good for APLD. APLD also, if we're looking at where they're growing in the data center space, they are leading the way in data centers. There are companies like Wolfstock, you got IREN, VNet or Arista Networks, you got, VRT, Veritone is in the conversation too. TSSI was one we were trading this past week. All data center stocks basically dipped towards the end of the week. Most semiconductor companies were down, with the exception of maybe NVTS. You saw AMD sell off, NVIDIA, and Supermicro. Big news came out though for APLD. We know that they're focusing on constructing data centers for some of the biggest companies in the world. Big tech like Apple and Microsoft and NVIDIA all need the next gen data centers that APLD is building. They focus on things like strategically placing these data centers near renewable energy sources, strategically advancing the cooling technology with liquid cooling for superior efficiency, and not really focused on just building in the desert like some places are building their data centers out in Phoenix. And to me, that's crazy. They're building their data centers in the coldest places near wind energy and things like that. So as they've signed some deals with Coreweave that have been over $10 billion, they have had trusted partnerships with NVIDIA and Dell and Intel. They started to see some growth around earnings. So it was this contract that really spiked the growth for APLD. Back in June, they were valued at, let's see, where were they back in June? It must have been just around $3 a share. We saw them here. Yep, just around $3 a share when they started this initial trend. And they signed this $7 billion deal to build data centers for Coreweave. Now, big AI tech need data centers, so they're willing to pay $10 billion. Applied Digital at the time had a market cap of around $2 or $3 billion. Now their market caps jumped to about $9 billion. And you see in their recent income statement they came out with on Thursday that their revenue spiked 84% year over year. They're up to $64 million in the quarter and on track to grow their revenues more and narrowed down their net income. Now, what we did notice was that they had a negative net income still, and they haven't seen probably even a sliver, maybe a sliver of some of these deals that they've signed with Coreweave or that other data center play that was a $3 or $4 billion deal. Otherwise, we most likely would see their revenue in the couple hundred million to as much as $1 billion in a quarter. And they haven't seen that yet, but when something like that happens, then a valuation of easily up to 50 billion to 100 billion would make a lot of sense if they're starting to see that type of dough roll in directly onto the balance sheet. And it's not just a conversation around that they signed the contract that we see it, but it actually shows up in the earnings. Now, they also came in with a balance sheet with their total assets growing to 155% year over year. You can see their total assets jumped to 2.4 billion, and their total assets are now twice as much basically as that of their liabilities. So they have pretty good cushion there, pretty good discipline on the balance sheet. So now that we see them start to recover, we've seen levels before. We've seen them spike up to highs of $35 a share. But this is different. This has some real contracts behind the recent spike. But even so, you could see that big spike recently up into that $39 price point, selling back down. There's two levels of support to watch, and these levels are going to be right around this $32 price range, or $31.50. This is the rising resistance level that could act as a support. And then we see them hold above there now, so $31.50. The more conservative support level, let's say things don't ease up in China with the tariffs. And on top of that, let's say that the United States government continues the shutdown that they're in. So you see, less contracts being deployed, maybe in defense. Probably won't affect data centers. It would be more, I guess, based on the China exports, imports, and the tariffs there. However, if we see the market, let's say, continue some of the red, we'll see how I think it's going to be a buying opportunity. We're going to see a recovery very soon. It's just going to be a matter of sentiment, and we might see that sentiment stay red for a bit. But if that's the case, the next more conservative support would be down to around $29 a share, which would be, from there, you'd be looking at a previous resistance level at around $30, okay? $30 a share support. Now, if they're going to continue this really bullish uptrend they've gotten themselves into, obviously to see them continue to knock on the door of that $35 to $40 range would be pretty optimistic. If we see those ranges continue and they continue to build a hyper bull trend, so previous resistance acting as a support so that they can continue this explosive trend, then the levels of $35 to $40 are possible. And in that case, we'd be seeing about a 10% to up to a 20% gain on APLD. So we're going to be watching these levels here into the week. As far as the market goes with data centers, there's definitely a lot of growth in the data center market. There's also, a little bit of a questioning around all of the massive amount of money that's flowed into data centers, because I think it was like this interesting thing where OpenAI, for example, I don't think this is the biggest concern as far as bubbles go, but like if you see like OpenAI and AMD, like basically you have AMD give up 10% of their company there to OpenAI, multi-year partnership. They're deploying 6 gigawatts of AMD Instinct GPUs, and they're going to continue to grow. But then you have, NVIDIA invest more in OpenAI, and then Oracle getting a piece of some of it. And it's almost like this circle of like the companies investing in each other and circulating this money. And it's all kind of going into the same thing, building the data centers. So the market's growing fast, but what's growing really fast also means that it has volatility. So the near-term volatility on APLD, conservatively, we're looking at that $30 support level. It's possible we see, pullbacks down to $25 or something like that, or a continued push up into $40 or $50. Now, I have long-term positions on APLD, as I mentioned before, and we just continue to hold and end up buying whenever APLD or companies in data centers, quantum, or AI or tech pull back, we look for buying opportunities. But in the short term, there is volatility. And so if there's a trade that presents itself, let's say, and we see a dip and we see some momentum kick in on Monday or something like that, or maybe throughout the week after it's been beat down a little bit, then it's important to have a plan in your short-term trading. So a lot of times we use things like a trade calculator. We're going to be managing risk, have a clear entry, a clear exit for where we plan on taking the trade, because it's not worth it to put a ton of your gains on the line when you would believe in the company long term anyway. So we don't trade stocks short term that we wouldn't invest in long term. And the reason is it's because let's invest in things that we could confidently trade and have competence around. You don't want to trade things, especially in a market like this, that you don't understand. You want to trade things that you have a good idea of some of the points we go over in a video, like how is the overall market for this company? Are they actually providing value to the marketplace? Do they have more assets than liabilities? Do they have good financials? Are they growing financially? Or are they not growing financially? And this is a company that's maybe going to have bankruptcy. I need to watch out and not touch that company. But seeing those things, those are basic things that a lot of times go overlooked when you see hype in the markets. And so just taking the time to say, what does it look like to we could be up 11% in a market when the whole market pulled back, and our portfolio goes up 5%. That's we get above average returns in certain instances because we set all of the probabilities in our favor. And what does it look like to do that? When you have pullbacks, it's important to look at why companies are moving, why they're going the direction they're going. Is it a market thing? Is it a financial thing? Is it a sentiment or a product or market value, future market value providing type of situation? Is it related to the charts? Is it something that we see in the sentiment from large investors or institutions kicking in? And these are things to consider. And if you ever want to learn more about how to consider the right indicators and also what goes into finding a good deal in the stock market, then I would encourage you to simply have a look at the second link below for StockMate. In StockMate, we go live at market open Monday through Friday. It's pretty early on the Pacific side of things, 6:30 a.m. On the East Coast, a little better. And right here in Argentina, it's a little better for me right now. Normally it's 6:30 a.m. But you get access to about 28 millionaires here inside of StockMate. Our next daily live trading is happening tomorrow at market open. You get an email about 15 minutes before we get going and we get live by market open. You get some targets for the week. You get to surround yourself with like-minded individuals and get a free t-shirt when you sign up. I'll send it over to you. So you can grab lifetime access to the daily live trading in the second link below with our government shutdown sale that you can take advantage of. Now, the other thing is, if you guys missed it, we had some awesome new features coming out over here in Mercatus. I was just doing, let's say, APLD. We can search up APLD. We can see some of the movement that it's had recently. And essentially, I chose my favorite model, which would be Grok or Claude or Gemini, Google's model, or I chose OpenAI in this case. And it went through and it's getting all the SEC data. It's getting all the insider trading, all the government, Congress trading. It's looking at all the indicators, all of the data that otherwise these models don't have, we provide to it. So once that data is fed into the models, it will give us some projections. We can see a projection here over the next day on APLD. It's looking for a little bit more of a correction, kind of what we're talking about potentially in the next day with some red. But look at that, over the next month, things are starting to look green again. But we added some new things, like our models consider the government shutdown, for example. And if you ever want to have that type of data or the SEC data that's considered, and you can use any of the top premium, the latest models from any of these models, the latest, most premium models from Grok or Claude or Gemini, to do analysis for you, to get some projections, and figure out why they're being projected, what they're being projected, then you can get access in the first link below. Get a full breakdown of what that looks like for Mercatus here. There's a few really cool features we're adding right now. We're working on, for example, the market network, where you can kind of visualize how companies are connected. But more than that, you can also, when you're getting your analysis, we're adding something new, which is you can actually very soon, you'll be able to synthesize all the data that we come out with, that the models come out with on projections, whether it's OpenAI or Google's Gemini or Claude or Grok, and the data that comes out from those models, you can actually run it through a quantum computer. And so we're actually working on adding very soon D-Wave here, as well as IonQ and Rigetti for those projections of those timeframes that you're getting, and kind of running that data through to see which timeframes might be the most likely to occur in those projections according to the quantum computer paired with the data. And so we plan on launching that very soon. And right now you can get beta access and a 1-year access, unlimited usage in the first link below. So if you want to go have a look, you can go take a look. It's a full video presentation. And then in the description of the video is a link to go enroll and sign up for beta. So a great offer. And if you're already thinking of joining StockMates, you might as well go grab it, because StockMate's included for free as a bonus when you join the machine. Now, if you're already in StockMate and you'd like to get access to the machine, you can also send me an email or a message, or just shoot me a DM over in StockMate, and you can get access at a discounted price because you're in StockMate. So make sure to send me a message if you want to get access to the machine right now. Appreciate you all. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.